The bigger mistakes, though, are the ones of omission. I did back when I had the $10,000. I put $2,000 of it into a Sinclair service station, which I lost. So my opportunity cost on that's about $6 billion right now. Fairly big mistake. Yeah, it makes me feel good when Berkshire goes down then, because the cost of my Sinclair station goes down too. My 20% opportunity cost. But I will say this: you talk about learning from mistakes. I really believe it's better to learn from other people's mistakes as much as possible. But we don't spend any time looking back at Berkshire. I've got a partner, Charlie Munger. We've been pals for 40 years. We've never had an argument. We disagree on things a lot, but we don't have arguments about it, and we never look back. We just figure there's so much to look forward to that there's just no sense thinking about what we might have. It just doesn't make any difference. I mean, you can only live life forward, and you can learn something perhaps from the mistakes, but the big thing to do is stick with the businesses you understand. And so if there's a generic mistake of getting outside of your circle of competence and buying something because somebody tips you on it or something of the sort in an area you don't know anything about, I mean, you should learn something from that, which is that you stay with what you can figure out yourself. I mean, you really want your decision making to be by looking in the mirror and saying to yourself, I'm buying 100 shares of General Motors at 55 because. And I mean, it's your responsibility if you're buying it, and there's got to be a reason. And if you can't state the reason, you shouldn't buy it. If it's because somebody told you about it at a cocktail party, not good enough. I mean, it's got to be something. It can't be because the volume, the chart looks good on it or anything like that. It's got to be a reason you'd buy the business, and we stick to pretty carefully. That's one of the things Ben Graham taught me. Yeah.
With the current tenuous economic situation in the world, although our economy seems to be still chugging along quite well, where are we going? What's going to happen with interest rates?
The question about what's going to happen to interest rates or where we go in the world, I don't think about the macro stuff. I just important. What you really want to do in investments is figure out what's important and knowable. If it's unimportant or unknowable, you forget about it. What you talk about is important, but in my view, it's not knowable. Understanding Coca-Cola is knowable, or Wrigley, or Eastman Kodak, or anything. I mean, you can understand those businesses. That's knowable. And whether it turns out to be important depends on where your valuation leads you and the current price and all of that. But we have never either bought a business or not bought a business because of any macro feeling of any kind. We don't read things about predictions about interest rates or business or anything like that because it doesn't make any difference. I mean, let's say in 1972 when we bought See's Candy, I think maybe Nixon put on the price controls a little bit later. Let's say we'd seen that, but so what? We'd have missed a chance to buy something for $25 million that's earning $60 million pre-tax now. I mean, we don't want to pass up the chance to do something intelligent because of some prediction about something that we're no good on it anyway. So we just don't read or listen to or do anything in relation to macro factors at all, zero. And the typical investment counseling organization goes out and they bring out their economists, they trot him out, and he gives you this big macro picture, and then they start working from there on down. In our view, that's nonsense. And if Alan Greenspan was on one side of me and Bob Rubin on the other side, they were both whispering in my ear exactly what they're going to do the next 12 months. It wouldn't make any difference to me in what I pay for executive jet or general reinsurance or anything else I do. Yeah. Well, what's the benefit of being an out-of-towner as opposed to being in Wall Street? I worked in Wall Street for a couple of years, and I like. I've got my best friends actually, and I'm on both coasts, and I like seeing them, and I get ideas when I go there. But the best way to think about investments is to be in a room with no one else and just think. And if that doesn't work, nothing else is going to work. And the disadvantage of being in any kind of a market type environment on Wall Street would be the extreme is that you get overstimulated. You think you have to do something every day. I mean, the Canver family paid $2,000 for this company, and you don't have to do much else if you pick one of those. And the trick then is not to do anything else, even not to sell it in 1919, which the family did later on. So what you're looking for is some way to get one good idea a year, and then ride it to its full potential. And that's very hard to do in an environment where people are shouting prices back and forth every 5 minutes and shoving reports under your nose and all that. Because Wall Street makes its money on activity. You make your money on inactivity. I mean, if everybody in this room trades their portfolio around every day with every other person, you're all going to end up broke, and the intermediary is going to end up with all the money. On the other hand, if you all own stock in a group of average businesses and just sit here for the next 50 years, you'll end up with a fair amount of money, and your broker will be broke. So his activity he's like a doctor who gets paid on how often he gets you to change pills. I mean, basically. If he gives you one pill and it cures you the rest of your life, he's got one sale, one transaction, and that's it. But if he can convince you that changing pills every day is the way to great health, it'll be great for him and the prescriptionists, and you'll be out a lot of money, and you won't be any healthier. You'll be a lot worse off financially. So you want to stay away from any environment that stimulates activity, and Wall Street would have the effect of doing that. I used when I went out to Omaha, I'd go back about once every 6 months, and I'd go back with a whole list of things I wanted to check out one way or another, companies I wanted to see, and I would get my money's worth out of those trips. But then I'd go back to Omaha and think about it. Yeah.
How should an investor evaluate owning shares of Berkshire Hathaway or Microsoft when they don't pay dividends to the investor?
Yeah. Well, the question with Berkshire Hathaway, the question was about evaluating Berkshire when it doesn't pay any dividends. And it won't pay any dividends either. It's a promise I can keep. All you get with Berkshire, you stick it in your safe deposit box, and then every year you go down and fondle it. You take it out and you fondle it, then you put it back. And I mean, there's enormous psychic reward in that. You don't underestimate it. But the real question is whether we can keep retaining dollar bills and turning them into more than a dollar at a decent rate. And that's what we try to do, and Charlie Munger and I have our money in it to do that. That's all we'll get paid for doing. We won't take any options. We won't take any salaries to speak of or anything. We'll ride around in the plane. But that's what we're trying to do. It gets harder all the time. The more money we manage, the harder it is to do that. And we would do way better percentage-wise with Berkshire if it was 1/100th the present size. But it is run for its owners. But it isn't run to give them dividends, because so far, every dollar that we've earned and could have paid out, we've turned into more than a dollar. It's worth more than a dollar to keep it. And therefore, it'd be silly to pay it out. Even if everybody was tax-free that owned it, it would have been a mistake to pay dividends at Berkshire, because so far the dollar bills retained have turned into more than a dollar. But there's no guarantee that that happens in the future, and at some point the game runs out on that. But it is the goal. I mean, that is what the business is about. Nothing else about the business do we judge ourselves by. We don't judge it by the size of its home office building or anything of the number of people working around it. We've got 12 people at headquarters. We've got 45,000 employees at Berkshire and 12 people at headquarters, 3,500 square feet. And we won't change it. So we will judge ourselves by the performance of the company. And that's the only way we'll get paid. But believe me, it's a lot harder than it used to be. But anything way in the back, because I want to make sure I'm not missing people back there that haven't called. Okay, then we'll go to well, how about way over there on the aisle? Yeah.
What made you decide investments to reach its full potential?
I missed this. What made me decide to invest what?
One of your investments has reached its full potential. As you said earlier that you...
I missed the last part of it. Reached its full potential. Well, ideally you buy in businesses where you feel that will never happen in terms of... I mean, I don't buy Coke with the idea that it's going to be out of gas in 10 years, or 15 years. There could be something happen, but I would think the chances of that are almost nil. So what we really want to do is buy businesses that we would be happy to own forever. It's the same way I feel about people who buy Berkshire. I want people to buy Berkshire that plan to hold it forever. They may not for one reason or another, but I want them at the time they buy it to think they are buying a business that they're going to own forever.